Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching the John Woodard Show. I am pleased to interview Pastor Thomas Kakadelis. He's with the Family Research Council, and I'm visiting with him at a hotel in Havelock, and we're going to have a real good conversation. Thank you for watching. Tom, really nice to see you.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
What is it that you do for the Family Research Council?
Well, it's real simple. I network pastors to connect them not only with each other, but also to help energize their efforts around establishing a biblical worldview in the community that they serve and to serve the community that they live in. So we try to empower them through community impact teams and through training opportunities and information resources we provide. And we've been doing that, well, Family Research Council has been around since 1983. I'm in the process now of transitioning to the North Carolina Family Policy Council, which is essentially the North Carolina version of FRC. And doing the same thing, Pastor. My title is Pastor Outreach Director.
And I assume that with your title of pastor, you have spent time in the church. What church did you serve?
Well, I cut my teeth at a little church down in downtown Atlanta called First Baptist Church of Atlanta. My pastor is Charles Stanley, and I've been with the ministry there. I was there, cut my teeth there, served there for almost 10 years. And so I've been a pastor for almost 40 years. What made you leave
that environment and come into the political environment?
Well, that's a good question. I served churches in Georgia, was a church planter in Southern California, and then came back to North Carolina on the staff and served as an associate in a church in Charlotte for a number of years, and then a senior pastor at another church in Anson County. And I moved to Moore County, which is right in the middle of the state, south of Raleigh, a little town called Pinehurst, and I've been living there. And as a result of serving in the churches through the years, I've had the opportunity to meet a number of pastors who sort of wanted to know all the time, what can we do to better engage our community, not just from a political standpoint, but just simply how do we build relationships and develop those relationships over time. So I've been tracking the political world really since I was a young person. My dad ran for the State House of Representatives in Connecticut when I was 13, and I worked on his campaign back then. And all the people in my family have been elected to something except me, and so I'm not planning to run for anything, but I am interested in helping pastors become aware of what they can do to energize and engage their communities to do things that will make our communities better, just all the way around, and advance the gospel.
Have you had any contact with any of the pastors in eastern North Carolina, up into Elizabeth City and so forth, about the training that you want to provide?
Sure. Yeah, I've gotten all the way up to Gates County and up in that direction. There's a number of pastors actually up there that are quite interested in what's going on. And so I travel the entire state. My role is with FRC and now with family policy here in North Carolina is to travel the entire state, working together to network pastors into areas that are, I would say, kind of like regions that we would say these pastors serve in that particular area, and then we want to help them sort of join together in that area. And we're not denominationally aligned, so it makes it much easier for pastors to join over basically one simple thing, and that is, who is Jesus to you, and is the Bible the Word of God? Once you do that, then you can move forward with anything that you want to talk about.
Not only is that non-denominational, but it gives you the opportunity to have an engagement with people where politics is kept out of the discussion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the goal really, I mean, obviously we live in a country with a political sphere, and you can't ignore that. I mean, there are school boards, county commissions, town councils, all kinds of local elected office, and then you have judges, state house and senate members, and then your upper level appeals court judges, Supreme Court here in the state, and then your statewide elected offices, both senate and house, and then of course the governor and lieutenant governor. So we need to be very adept at what our civics is in the state we live. Now, I happen to focus on North Carolina because I live here and it's important to me. I have 7 grandchildren. I want to leave them a legacy for what really matters, John. And that's, to me, what as an example to them as a man and as a father and as a grandfather, I feel like I need to leave them a legacy of involvement and engagement, just like my dad did. And so I feel like we have that opportunity as well as the obligation. So along with our rights come our responsibilities, and it seems to me that's what everybody should do. So as a pastor, it's not like you can separate it. The scriptures are clear. I mean, Daniel stood for his values in the face of actually certain death because he believed what he believed was important to him from his relationship with God, and it didn't have anything to do with the politics of the day. I mean, you take a look at it, he was in danger, and you take a look at Nehemiah, a good example of that as a cupbearer. I mean, and he saw the problem that was existing in his community and among the people that he represented in, and he said, I've got to do something about it. The king said, what do we need to do? And he proceeded to move forward and to rebuild Jerusalem. And consequently, that example that these men set for what was right to them is now the legacy that we get to uphold today.
Do you have any interaction with Tony Perkins?
Well, we don't communicate on a regular basis. What we do is I talk with the executive vice president, General Jerry Boykin. He's my direct report, if you will, and then we have a local, a national representative, as well as our community impact training director, which is Mark Harris, and he lives right here in North Carolina. And many of us know Mark from not only his Senate run and his role as a president, as the pastor at First Baptist in Charlotte, and then of course his very tragic
house run. That was a very unfortunate situation, but that just goes to show you that how dirty politics can be. What they accused him of was exactly what they did in the last election, among other things, but certainly that was one of them. So, it's
the thing about it is, unfortunately, politics gets labeled as negative because you got people that are dirty, whether they were in politics or any other business. These people are just not, they're not honest people. And one of the kind of the trademarks of a person, I think, of good character is to tell the truth, or at least not to lie. And I think that neither of those characteristics are true with some of the people that have been very, very active in the political sphere. But that's the nature of that's the human condition. So what we need to do as believers is continue to advance forward both the agenda of the mission of the gospel, while all the while doing what we can to preserve a peaceful and quiet life as we know it, so that we can do that. And unfortunately, the founders who intended for us to see the government protect those inalienable rights with responsibility, civic responsibility, but protect those rights are being eroded today, and I don't think anyone can argue that.
No, they can't. There's with the way that big tech has gone from being a platform to being a publisher and getting into the middle of the political campaigns and delisting all kinds of people, not just Donald Trump, but now Senator Ron Johnson and his committee. And it's on and on and on. Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy. it's amazing that they're getting away with it. And somebody said, well, why are these big tech companies doing this? And somebody else said, well, they probably don't want to do it because this is contrary to their business interests, but the mainstream media is shaming them into doing it. So I just don't know where it's going, but if we don't look out, we can see our civil liberties disappearing right in front of our eyes.
Well, there's no doubt. I think that's the challenge, and that's why I'd like to engage pastors, because I think many of them feel isolated and sometimes not certain what would be the next best thing to do. So by getting with them and connecting them with other pastors, we're able to talk about what are the next best actions to take, because everybody needs encouragement. Nobody needs to be an island. And so first of all, we want to build that bridge. And then secondly, we want to make sure they have the resources that they need in order to best represent the gospel in the context that they're in. And then the third part, which I think is actually the fun part, it's the service component, which says, okay, let's find a need, let's find out where somebody's already working, and join them. And so today, one of the strategies that, in fact, I'll talk about it tonight when I'm speaking at an engagement, is talking about how easy it is to identify, especially during this pandemic, how many young people are going to be behind in their studies. And so one of the things that churches and leaders and others can do is go ahead and partner with these schools to help these kids get caught back up to an age appropriate or a grade appropriate level that's consistent with what the expectations are, because they're behind. Out here in the East, we've had 2 hurricanes and a pandemic in 4 years. And these kids, many of them may be as much as 2 years behind. In fact, today, I heard a statistic that said that even the high achievers will be 6 months behind in their studies. So it says to me that there's an effort that the church can engage, and people of faith all around can engage, is to volunteer, partner with these young people, help them get caught up in the after-school program or tutoring, and then see what we can do to get them back on track. And all the while building a credible relationship with the leadership in the schools, because that's where we can have a huge influence. And they're looking forward to having that. They need volunteers to do that.
Really good. All of the things that you said are absolutely correct. But when the vast majority of children are in the public school system, and the public school system is driven by the teachers unions, even President Biden said, he had certain expectations of what was going to happen regarding getting kids back in school, and now he's backpedaling under pressure, I assume, from the teachers unions. That leaves a real opportunity for non-denominational educational opportunities with various churches. But you gotta work real hard to get up to the standard of what they're getting from the public school. So how do you go about solving the problem with an entrenched bureaucracy in the teachers union?
Well, that may be the blessing behind the COVID crisis right now, because what it's doing is it's forcing parents who've not been able to get their children back into in-person classes, and how the kids are failing through this virtual learning or these web-based learning skills. They're just not, they're failing the kids, and the parents are looking at that, and these families are looking for options. And what we've done in North Carolina over the last few years, and the last 10 years in particular, is expand charter schools. We've opened up the door for more opportunity scholarships, which allows parents and families of marginalized kids to get opportunities to go to schools other than the district schools. And then with the growth of charter schools and homeschooling and even Christian schools in the communities, this is a great opportunity for all of us to advance education choice. So what we want to do is provide educational freedom so parents are not ever pigeonholed into one choice. There's tons of opportunities and ways to provide those opportunities. So I think it's incumbent on pastors to look at ways they can utilize their facilities better, ways they can take advantage of these after-school needs that exist, and then look at and offering parents, hey, what can we do that would help your children through this crisis? Because it's the time, right now is the time to do it. And there's opportunity scholarship money for parents to do it, up to $5,000 a year to go to a school of your choice. Well, that may not get you into some upper level private schools, but many schools will accept if they think the child can make the grade on the educational line, they'll accept that $5,000 as sufficient in scholarship the rest. So there are ways to do it, and parents just need to know they're not tied to one option based on their zip code.
Well, that really means that the level of communication has to be right to the top of what it could be to get the word out. And you know, you're a great guy, but you can only talk to so many people at one time. How are you relying solely on the pastors in order to spread the word?
No, but pastors are a place to start. Again, like I said, the goal is to network these pastors and to make sure that they get the information they need and also want. But I'll speak to your family reunion. I mean, I'll go anywhere and speak. And so the opportunity to go and talk to groups in communities like I did last night and I'm doing tonight here in down east is to get the word out and to talk to people about what it means to have choices. What is real freedom? And how many places in the world that don't have any choices? They don't even have schools for some of these kids. And we're in a situation here where we can provide options. And we need to work on that. And I can understand why it's difficult for some families. I know that they feel sometimes like they're trapped, but they're not. There are options. And so if we can get the word to them by traveling about, now I'm not the only one that does it. There are parent advocates through an organization called Parents for Educational Freedom all over the state. And they can speak to them, and I have contact information that I can provide you with so that people can get in touch with them. But there's also schools in their communities. Many people think charter schools are a tuition-based school. There's no cost for a charter school. Charter schools are free. Taxpayers provide the monies that, at least the state allocated money and some local money, goes to the charter school in that area. They're a public school. So if there's schools available, parents just need to know their options, but then they also need to do their homework. So this is not a time where you can lax. When you've got a child under the age of 12, you've got to be very intentional about their education. And I think it's a good thing for parents to own that. The community can't do all that they need to do to provide
the
that.
Government can never solve every problem, and this is a big problem that you have to have community solutions to. That you can't, if you're waiting. There's so much bureaucracy in government at all levels that I'm reminded of talking to. I just interviewed Catherine Truitt, and I interviewed her as a candidate, and then a week or two ago I interviewed her as after her election, and I thought that I was confident that she, with the limitations that she has, that she would do a good job in her position. But just a couple of days ago, here she's standing up there saying that in-person education is probably not going to take place until sometime in the fall. So, she doesn't have any authority to say anything differently, and the school board is calling the shots. So it's a real exasperating situation, to say the very least.
There's no doubt. There's challenges there, and political folks have to play games with that I don't even want to get into. But what I do know is doing the right thing for kids is what parents can do. So if this door is shut, then this window opens. And we just have to help parents see that they're not trapped. They have options. And if they can't, then we can help them find options. So every parent needs to just go ahead and take ownership for their child's education, and then step into the option world. Look at it. What are the available options to me? Now, there are rural communities that there are not many options, and I understand that. Maybe they're even restricted to the zip code they're in. But that doesn't mean the parent anyway gives up their responsibility or relegates what they have to do to somebody else to do. So we can help them with resources, and we can build towards ways that they can get what they need. There are charter schools that are opening up every year, and there are more opportunities now between homeschooling and other things that parents can do. If they're going to be stuck to a virtual education, why don't you get homeschool curriculum and just do it from there? You don't need to be stuck to a screen. And that's why I think it's a matter of a parent's role and responsibility. And sometimes where there's not a parent, or where there's a family or guardian that is responsible for that child, then there are resources, as I mentioned, families, that Parents for Educational Freedom in North Carolina, PEFNC, very good organization to help people find the right, match for their family.
Well, this, what everything that we've talked about is specific to what it's going to take to elevate the educational level of our children, and we've got you have a huge job to do. Are you recruiting people in various communities to help you? Sure. Or just how are you doing that?
That's a good question, John. I think the two things that really help the process along. First of all, I use the term engagement, because I really believe that if people sort of look at the landscape of the life that's before them, wherever they live, and take a look at it and say, I really need to engage. Now, what does that mean for each person? It's different. Some people have financial resources that they can contribute to helping a child go to a school other than the one that's in their zip code. Another person could help with their time, after school programs, helping these young people get caught up. You can go and fill out the application, go ahead and get the background check, and go ahead and offer yourself. And people say to me, well, I'm an engineer. What do I know about elementary education or high school education? Well, it's a funny thing. Most of us had to take basic subjects,
Sure.
Chemistry, biology, those kinds of things. And mostly mathematics and reading and English, the basic language arts. Those are the areas that help build a foundation. And if a child doesn't have the scaffolding, you have to go back and rebuild or establish that scaffolding. But then once they get to the high school years and they're able to do some things, then the engineers can come in and they can say, look, I'm glad to give an hour every Tuesday to help a student, get caught up on biology or chemistry or whatever the sciences that they may be dealing with. So everybody can engage, and especially for people of faith, Christians in particular, need to ask themselves a question: Am I the witness in the community that I could be? It doesn't mean you have to state it with all the words. It's not just about preachers preaching it or teachers teaching it. It's sometimes the life that you live in your community is enough of Jesus for people to say, there's something different about you. Tell me about that. I want to know about that. And so if young people see that example, especially with dads today, so many difficult situations exist out there. But this is an opportunity for us to be the people of God that God's called us to be. And I don't think we need to shy away. I think we need to step into that gap. And so I try to help people do that through engagement. The second part is activism. And I say that carefully because it can sound like a disrupting word.
Political connotation.
Has a little, but it doesn't mean to be.
Yeah.
But what activism really is to say, have you attended your Board of Education meetings? Have you gone to your county commission meetings? Have you ever gone to Raleigh to meet your legislators and your senators? Have you ever actually met the lieutenant governor or the governor? And I think what we can do at North Carolina Family Policy is if you'll come with us and meet with us when we have gatherings for the state at the state capitol. We have an office in Raleigh, big conference room. And then we orient folks that come up. Maybe they want to go and just meet their House members or senators. And then we take them down there and introduce them. We talk to them about how do you make your voice known? How do you let your legislators know what you believe and what you want about a certain bill or about a certain action? And then we help them keep those legislators accountable. And so you don't have to be an activist, but you can be interested enough to take action. And I think that's really what I mean by that. So engagement and activism summed up is basically what we try to help people do with the right information, always keeping in mind that our mission is to reach people with the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Well, this has been an extremely interesting interview. Our kids are the foundation of the future, and they're going to carry the load for all of us as we get older, and we've got to help them get from where they are to where they need to be, and it's going to take the effort of everybody, parents and local and state politicians and school board and everybody. So I'm really glad that I had this conversation with you. It's been a terrific experience.
Well, thanks, John. Anyone can go and get more information at ncfamily.org, ncfamily.org, and they can also go to our church leaders page, which is kind of more like it's under construction since I'm newly advancing that. But you can sign up there to get regular information and find out more about what's going on with our broadcast. We have a regular broadcast and a radio show. So it would be an honor for us to have folks that listen to you come time and check us out sometimes on NC Family, and we'd love to do anything we can to help get the message out. So thank you.
When you have one of those events in your boardroom in Raleigh, and people come and you've taken them to see their legislators and everything, I'd love to be able to come and
Sure.
and record that, because it's one thing to hear it from you, it's another thing to hear it from people that are living it, so I really
It's fun to
look forward
watch. You'd enjoy it. It's fun to watch because when you see people, that's not their business, but they're just regular old folks from North Carolina coming into Raleigh to help make their voices known. That's why we live in such a great nation, and it's actually an honor and a privilege to serve, to see people do that. So I'm excited. Love to have you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, John.
Very nice to
Appreciate
meet you. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you got a lot of information out of this. I know I did. Thank you very much for watching.